Thanks for tuning in, and thanks so much for your time tonight. My name is Eric Elliott, and I'm the Advanced Hunter Education Coordinator with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. And as a way of introducing our topic tonight, we've been kicking around the idea in the chat of your sense of direction. And I don't want to brag, but I'm similar to Andrew. I think that I have a better sense of direction in the woods actually than I do in the city. Oftentimes, we're driving in the city, and I do not have any clue which way is north, and it's not my sense of direction is definitely not foolproof. And I've been like Andrew as well, where I've been overconfident in the past and thought I had everything dialed in and knew where things were. And then there was one variable that was added to the scenario, and that variable was darkness. and, and everything took a turn for the worse. And I'll just give you a quick example of that. When one of my sons was 13, he killed a really nice buck. We were way back in the backcountry, and he killed it at last light. And so we took the time, we processed it, we quartered it up, and it was probably 2 hours after it got dark. I looked at each one of my sons and I asked them, "So which way's camp?" And they all pointed completely different directions. And they were wise, and they asked me, "Which direction do you think it is, Dad?" And I wasn't quite as bad as them, but I was off. And so just being overconfident, I think, in the woods can sometimes result in some serious drama. In that case, we were just able to plug in the coordinates, look on a compass, and make sure we were right. We were back to camp. But without the compass and without the GPS, I think we would have had a long night in the woods. So anyway, this webinar is designed to take some of that mystery out of navigation and make people more confident in their navigation skills. And here to help us, we've got my brother, Andrew Poincott. Andrew's a certified hunter education instructor. He's a former law enforcement officer and taught land navigation courses in the U.S. Army Infantry. Andrew, I want to thank you so much for doing part 2 of this webinar series, and you've got the floor. Take it away, brother.
Hey guys, so again, thanks for coming back to our part 2 of our quick and dirty land navigation seminar. Where we dropped off last time was going over a few online resources, and I just wanted to hit these real quick. LT, do you see Cal Topo on my shared screen with you?
Yes,
in front
sir.
of you?
Yes, I do.
So what I'm going to do here is real quick. I'm going to give you a real fast high view overview of navigation for Cal Topo. Again, this resource is free. They do have a premium version. I'm not saying that you need to go out and spend money on it, but whenever I'm teaching a land navigation course, like for the state, and I need to produce topographic maps to hand out to the attendees, I use this resource right here. And if we look over here on the right-hand side where it says Map Builder, we can pretty much pick anything that we want right here to start putting together maps. And let's see here, Yosemite. I've been looking at half time. I can actually type better than this because all of you are watching me right now. It's making me a bit nervous. And come on. Oh, you want to embarrass me, don't you? Okay, here we go. We're just going to zoom in on a section here. So this has a number of overlays, including Forest Service maps and other different maps that you can build. So we're just going to zoom in here on an area. And wait for the interwebs to catch up, which it doesn't want to. Oh, thank you. Don't embarrass me too much here tonight. Good Lord. I promise you this was working earlier. So we have a number of overlay features, and you see the sections here that we talked about. These are square miles that represent areas that were surveyed when townships were originally laid out on the maps. We have a number of layers that we can add here to stack on the maps. Just play around with this. It gets really cool. You can start like just adding all sorts of things. It just makes this pretty rad. X that out. Cool thing though is we pull up a section of map in front of us. All we have to do over here is hit the little print function, and it lays this grid square, this square over it as an overlay. We can select the paper size that we want, 8.5 by 11. Again, for you Marines out there, that's what your NJP or Captain's Mass charges would come on when they'd serve you and bust you down in rank. You want to select scale. Remember how we talked about scale earlier last week? 1 in 24 thousandths, 1 in 25 thousandths, 1 in 50 thousandths. I suggest 1 in 50 thousandths, okay? For the sake of keeping things simple and again, being able to use multiple protractors. 200 DPI for the free printing version is best that you're gonna get. Again, remember UTM, where you select that, auto. I like to select the 1 kilometer grid squares. Again, we're not going to select longitude and latitude because no one, if you call search and rescue, and someone in there might be able to navigate longitude and latitude. Remember WGS 84, again, that's what satellites are communicating with your standard GPS. We're going to talk about programming your GPS here towards the end of the course and make sure that you know how to plug that in there. And you got the icon size. All you have to do from here, again, is set up for portrait, is hit generate PDF. Doot, doot, doot. Look what you got here. You've got a topographic map with your scale, with your magnetic declination, all built in right here. Tells you your UTM zone. This, we're looking at 12 Tango. In this case, it gives you the scale. You can use this if you're going to go hunt an area. Take this feature, download your maps. You can get waterproof 8.5 by 11 sheets to take over to FedEx Kinko's. Ask them to print one of these color maps for you. Make sure that when they print it, that they scale it to 100%. Ask them to do one test print for you that is for free for you. Don't give them your expensive waterproof paper. Then take the protractor, which we're going to review again, and put it in these corners and make sure that that square, 1 in 50,000 square, lines up with these grid squares right here. Okay, and then you can piece these together. Like, hey, I'm gonna hunt this area this day. I'm gonna go scout in this area. I'm gonna take this. You have those stacks of map and that big gallon bag to keep close to your heart and chest and be able to navigate on the ground. Again, it's a fantastic resource that these people make free. Again, they do have a paid version. I haven't really messed around with it. I can't speak to the value, but again, it's an incredible value, an incredible service. Awesome. So here, this is another thing. We've got the United States USNG lookup viewer. We talked about Half Dome. And when we're looking at like, hey, throwing in grid coordinates, I've got this one saved up here. Boop, boop. Oh, come on. Of course, disappear on me. There we are. Oh. I'm going to apologize to you because Zoom wants to keep having a drop-down menu that's falling over my watch this. See that? Boom. Switch that. Thank you, Zoom. So when you've got grid coordinates that you want to look up, remember the format that we were talking about? The 11 Sierra, it's the big grid square. And then they've got an alpha designator, Kilo Bravo, 7677. We're talking about an 8-digit grid square here. We can plug that in there. And again, we've got 11 Sierra, Kilo Bravo is telling you that's the big quadrants of the map that we reviewed last session. If I hit that 8-digit coordinate, it drops right down on Half Dome. Okay, so again, brief overview. These links are available in the presentation for you to geek out on your own time at home and to, really start putting these things together so that you can see how the protractor, map, GPS, compass all start working together. And here's your SAT word for the day in a synergistic fashion so that you can navigate out there in the wilderness. Or at least if you get yourself in trouble, realize that search and rescue, the pilot may have some military experience, probably has some military experience, understands this UTM grid system, the MGRS, the WGS-84, the National Grid System. They understand all this. You start talking to them on, I'm at 11 Sierra Kilo Bravo 76778062, fire for effect. They'll know exactly what you're talking about, and they'll be able to zip in right there to pick you off a mountain. We're going to drop out of here. We're going to go to slideshow. Current slide. Look at me. It's like I didn't grow up with Windows. Laser pointer. There we go. Boom. LT, you got live on air. The curtains opening. Basic land navigation course. Quick and dirty part 2. Is that in front of you, sir?
No, it's not.
Oh, okay. I'm going to stop sharing that. Let's go to this. How are we looking now?
It's looking good, brother.
Outstanding. Everyone see my red cursor there in front?
Yes.
Outstanding. Look at this. We're going to break into a brief discussion about compasses. Not going to be very in-depth, but understand there are different kinds of compasses out there, and different compasses that are made for the different hemispheres that we're in. Remember, Earth can be quartered and cut in half. We are up here in the Northern Hemisphere, i.e. North America, Northern Hemisphere, South America, Southern Hemisphere. The big ball of liquid hot molten iron ore that's floating up there in the Northern Hemisphere up there towards where Santa Claus lives, that's floating away, that causes that magnetic needle to track in the direction. Okay. Different compasses for different hemispheres that you're going to be in. So you're going to see when you come across like at your REI or your favorite independent outdoor retailer, very basic base plate compasses. These are great to keep as a navigational backup. So again, you have that gallon Ziploc bag, you're going to put your maps in there, you're going to put your protractor in there, you're going to put your smart card that reminds you of what you need to do when you're at 13,000 feet and the oxygen's limited to your brain and you start forgetting, your left from your right and, your head from your bottom. These are great navigational backup aids. You put that in there with your map case. It doesn't come out unless you're in an emergency. They're not the ideal thing to try to navigate with in the wilderness. They will get you out in an emergency, but again, simple base plate compasses. You got mirror compasses. We use one of these, the Northern Hemisphere compass, in the land nav classes that we teach here in person. Understand, it is a Northern Hemisphere compass. If you were to look at the geometry on one of these things, the base plates are a little bit shorter because again, it's made in Finland, well, in the Northern Hemisphere. These things are made a little bit shorter so that compass needle can track fairly easily without running into any sort of obstructions. If you take that Northern Hemisphere compass down to like South Africa or, Australia because you want to go hunt, kick buffalo out in the outback, and you try to use that compass, that needle, remember, you're on the other side of the planet. That needle is going to be trying to point, boom, right towards the base of that base plate in that compass. So what engineers have done over the years, a long time ago, they created what's essentially called a global compass. And that global compass, if you look at the geometry, this bezel housing right here is taller than the Northern Hemisphere. So that needle, when it's being attracted to that magnetic north on the Northern Hemisphere, as crazy as it is, that is actually the negative pole on our magnetic poles, and the southern poles are positive pole. But anyway, the way these needles are set up, it's attracted and magnetized to attract to the Northern Hemisphere. Instead of pointing like boom right into the dirt, it's able to pivot the appropriate amount so that it doesn't grind or have any sort of interference with the base plate of the compass itself. Be aware, you want to go traveling and whatnot, spend the extra dinero, get yourself a global compass. You don't have to worry about that sort of thing. Also notice that most of these higher end compasses, they're going to have like some glow in the dark lumophosphorescent features. Engineering compasses or lensatic compasses, these are like bread and butter. These are cool because you pay the money. They're global compasses. You can use them anywhere in the world. What you got to watch out for is you're going to like spend the money to get like one of the tritium based compasses that like pop that thing open and you can like read a book at night. They're great and they glow in the dark for like ever. Start traveling around the world with one of these cool tritium compasses in your like personal luggage. You have to remember that tritium is radioactive, and there are a lot of countries that don't like, you know, people like bringing radioactive isotopes in their personal carry-on luggage or checked luggage into their country, like Japan, and you'll get in trouble. But they do make glow-in-the-dark compasses that have phosphorescence in it that aren't radioactive, that you know, the same high quality engineering lensatic compasses that you can use anywhere in the world, and you shouldn't get too much static over that. You got different parts of the compass that you need to be familiar with. You got the rear, when it comes to the lensatic compass, the rear lens, you got the sight wire, you got the base plate in the cover, and the base plates will have measuring marks on it. You've got, again, the luminophosphorescence, you got the arrow, you got the bezel. You're gonna see two numbers on here. You're gonna see degrees and mils. You don't have to worry about mils because you're not calling for indirect fire, i.e. artillery or anything like that. You got the little sight ring right here that you tie your lanyard onto and you put it on your body so you don't lose it. Real quick, you're gonna come across some other type engineering compasses like this. So you're gonna see like on eBay and things like that. I was like, that's where I wanna be right there. Things are like that big. And these are used, these engineering compasses are used for survey, as well as they're used in the artillery for actually getting really accurate azimuths so they can hit with enemy positions with indirect fire. You see something like this, you think it's cool. Yeah, it meets that first kind of cool factor, but it doesn't hit that second kind of cool because it's heavy and it's impractical to use in the actual field. Now you're going to come across these other little cool things that, like, you know, in the back of the survival knife, what Rambo has in his knife. I don't know if you ever remember Rambo First Blood. He's like out there when he's running from the law. You got these other little compasses that you can attach to your wristwatch, or they come as separate wrist wearing devices. They are great little backup compasses. If you know, whatever you decide that nature calls, you drop your LBE or your bino harness and you get chased by a bear, and it's like, hey, you know, I gotta walk that 90-degree panic azimuth to get back to a road. Hey, it's something that's better than nothing while the bear eats your gear back where you left it. But don't rely on it. Carry it, yes. Rely on it, no. Compass basics. Again, remember that liquid ball of iron-rich magma that's floating in the northern hemisphere, that is our negative pole, that's running off towards Russia. It moves every year, and that means that our magnetic declination changes every year. Now, there's no quiz after this, except for my Marines, who, again, you're recognized as a protected class, and all you have to do is identify your shapes and colors. Don't worry, we'll get you through this. But again, whenever you're moving on the planet, even a few hundred miles north, south, east, west, that magnetic declination changes. And it changes a lot more when you're changing hemispheres or international date lines, okay? This is a little smart card right here. It's available in the online resources. You shoot me that email, you tell me you want to be my friend. You don't have to do that, although I admire and appreciate those of you who did. Just ask for the extra materials. The smart card will be available for you that you can download, print for yourself, keep in that Ziploc bag. It'll remind you what to do when you're in an area and you're going a little dumb from lack of oxygen. But understand that when you're using your compass with a map, you have to adjust for the grid north to magnetic north. That means that map, remember, that map is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object, and we have to be able to orient that map in a way so that that two-dimensional representation actually matches up with the three-dimensional world in the direction that we're looking. And the only way to do that is understand the very basic math that we are asking for you to perform, and that's converting your grid azimuth to magnetic azimuth, and ultimately your magnetic azimuth back to a grid azimuth so that you can navigate. You can use your GPS for all this cool stuff, but just remember, when you turn that sucker on and it is running and pointing you in a direction that you want to go, if you can program in that grid coordinate, it is draining that precious battery. And unless you're carrying solar panels with you or some other means of recharging that, it's just adding complication to your day. Also, it's really cool to have these kinds of skills, like Napoleon Dynamite kind of skills, to be able to go out there and navigate with just mapping compass. So, techniques for holding your compass. There is the handheld thing where guys hold it down by their belts and whatnot. I don't recommend that because, again, remember, a lot of us wear, we have a metallic belt button. Where did I learn to speak? Belt buckle that can cause the magnetic azimuth on the compass to be off. If you're standing in a timber line, trees interfere with the Earth's magnetic field. They've got their own thing going on. If you are like cruising around in your side by side and you got your roll cage and whatnot, you got to get away from that. And you actually, ideally, you're holding it up to your eye, unless you got a metal plate in your head that could be throwing off the magnetic azimuth. If you've got hey, you're out there LARPing and you're deciding, hey, I'm going to hunt a deer with an AR-10 across my chest, and you're trying to shoot an azimuth with that AR-10 across your chest, or that SKS you bought out discount at Big Five, it's going to be throwing off the azimuth. So, put your weapon someplace safe where you can find it. Ask your buddy to secure your weapon. Get away from your side-by-side. Get away from the vehicle that you're cruising around in, what you shouldn't have a loaded firearm in next to you when you're doing that. All these important things, just, get clear, remove, get metal away from you. If you're carrying Mr. T necklaces, stuff around your neck, be mindful of that it can affect your azimuth. But this is a basic handheld means of holding it. If you're just walking off a couple hundred meters, hey, you can utilize this technique, but be smart when you're shooting an actual an accurate azimuth. Again, this is the cheek weld technique that you're holding up here. You're going to see a number of people doing silly things with this stuff in different publications, where they're holding it out way out here and just doing stuff that you shouldn't be doing when you're trying to hold a compass or trying to shoot an azimuth. If you've got a lens-static compass, which I like, or a mirror compass that folds up like this, put that thing up to your eye and close to your face and stabilize it. Have what they say, those 3 points of contact: 1 point of contact, 2 points of contact, 3 points of contact. Help stabilize that. So when you're off shooting an azimuth, at this tree or this, actually it's a smokestack, and you're able to read that those degrees on that azimuth that you're shooting, you'll see, hey, this is shooting at a magnetic azimuth of 320 degrees. But depending on where you are on Earth, if you try to plot that on a map, 320 degrees could be, 10, 15, 20 degrees off, because we still have to convert magnetic to grid to actually be able to know where that smokestack is at. Or, hey, you're chopping through the woods and you come across an illegal cartel marijuana grow, and you want to be able to be like, hey, I know where my location is on the GPS. I want to be able to call the game wardens or, the appropriate law enforcement agency and shoot a polar azimuth to say, hey, I was at this grid coordinate location depth. I shot an azimuth. My estimation with my rangefinder was 800 meters in a direction of 320 degrees on the azimuth. They can take that information. They could put a bird, an eye in the sky, go out there, bust these guys who are dumping batteries and chemicals in our waterway and destroying our habitat. So,
Right on.
orienting your map. So this is one of the first things you want to do, even before you start shooting azimuths and stuff like that, is going to remember a map is a two-dimensional representation of a three-dimensional object, and we want to be able to orient our map. When we say orient our map, it's hey, you always want to try and orient it to the north. Always want to try to orient it to the north. But if you're in a bind, it's hey, I need to just turn myself sideways and orient it to a north-south, and even though I'm facing a westerly direction, don't go out there and oh, this guy told me I have to always have it oriented to the north. Do what you need to do in the field, but for the sake of our conversation here, we want to orient our map to the north. And remember, we have to be able to convert our magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth, so that as we align our map with the magnetic pull of the earth, when I've got these little hills and peaks out in front of me, or be a smokestack or a radio signal, a radio tower, or some man-made objects, I can orient the map so that it is an accurate two-dimensional representation of the three-dimensional environment that I am observing. And we do that by converting our grid to magnetic angle. In this case, again, taken from 1970, it's an old field manual. I know the Army is really slow about updating their stuff. Don't blame me. They have a GM angle of 10 degrees. That means that, hey, in this case, because we've got the GM angle information here, it says, hey, it's going to go left. We want they're breaking it down for us infantry guys. You want the arrow for your compass to be pointing off to the left by 10 degrees. So we put that straight edge on that grid line that we have here running north and south. We take our map, our compass on that map that's laying on the ground, and we just start, we slide it just like that until this, that black hash right there is reading 10 degrees to the east in this case. And that arrow is pointing off just as if it would be pointing off here towards magnetic north. At that point, our map is oriented in a creating a two-dimensional representation of the three-dimensional environment that we are observing here. Throwing a lot of information at you. Usually we have like days, if not like our entire career, to start absorbing this until you get commissioned as an officer and they lobotomize that part of your brain so that you can't actually go out and navigate it. But again, there are going to be resources at the end, including YouTube resources that explain this probably better than I do. You have my email throughout this. If you want to talk offline, shoot me a jump on Zoom and I can like break this down for you. I get out the construction paper and crayons for you Marines and help you do better in your job. Basic stuff. Again, converting a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth. West to east, you subtract, east to west, you add. Look, it's on a smart card for a reason. And we showed you that map case at the beginning. When I have when I'm out like doing land navigation, orienteering, anything like that, I fold my map so that it's showing that just that little section that I know that I'm going to be operating in. I have that on one side. And then on the other side, I've got this right there. So that as my time's clicking down and I'm starting to panic, or I've been running with a 35-pound pack on my back and I'm just like getting cooked, I can just go back and quickly reference like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be like subtracting this whole time so I can continue shooting accurate azimuth in the direction that I should be navigating to.
Hey, Andrew, there's a
yes, sir.
question in the chat talking about, it says, didn't you last week mention we needed to update to current magnetic north to align the map? Can you help us with that, brother?
Yes. Now, there's one of the active links inside of, and we're going to be doing this as a matter of fact, like, let me back up here. When we're talking about orienting the map to the current magnetic north. So right here, if this is a topographic map that we were provided by whoever, and they thought it would be a great practical joke to give us a map that hasn't been updated since 1970. When it was the Bee Gees are like the biggest thing like in rock and roll back then. You wouldn't even call it disco. Disco was big. There's an active link within the presentation here, and it's escaping me what the name is. I think it may even be one of Noah's links. That if you put in the area that you intend to be navigating in, be your home or be the area that this map printed in 1970 was produced for you, you can put in there and it'll tell you that updated grid to magnetic angle. And then you can take your little pencil and you can write that updated grid to magnetic angle on there, cross out the old one from 1970, put the updated one in there, put the date that you actually recorded it so that if you're forgetful like me, you know what it was in there. And then you can use that updated grid to magnetic angle that you can get from the government, like to the day, it'll be updated there for you in order to orient your map. Hopefully that answers your question.
Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely. So again, converting a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth and back from a grid azimuth to a magnetic azimuth. So come on, work with me here. I have to move the little camera that's showing my mug. Again, basic math, right? Here we have our grid north. Okay, and remember, 3 norths for our purpose. It's true north, you Marines, that's where Santa Claus lives with this little special workshop in his elves. Got grid north, which is when they filleted, like Hannibal Lecter style, filleted the surface of the earth and made it into a 2-dimensional representation of this 3-dimensional object and peeled it back. They put grid lines on it, right? You've got grid north, you got magnetic north, in the direction that the compass points, right? So if you have, as an example here, we've got a grid to magnetic angle of 12 degrees west, and I'm shooting a magnetic azimuth of 5 degrees, 5 degrees to the north. That's what my compass, I put that compass to my face and it's like, oh, it says 5 degrees. I need to be able to take that magnetic azimuth and convert it into my grid azimuth. Simple example here, I subtract my 5 degrees, or again, we're using a compass that goes up to 360, but for the sake of complicating things, because sometimes the Army wants to complicate things too much, 365, that gives me a grid azimuth of 353 degrees to the north. This is this guy talking about. I'm going to show you right now. Okay. So I'm sitting over here at target at area A. I'm LARPing in the woods. I've got my AR-10. I've got my tiger stripe on. I've got camouflage face paint. I've got my ghillie suit. I'm over here at point A. I take my compass and I shoot my azimuth towards point B. It could be a big old tree. It could be a hilltop. It could be a rock outcropping. It could be a buddy over there waving like, hey, I'm over here, right? I shoot that that magnetic azimuth of 107 degrees. I now need to plot that on the map, right? So I have a grid to magnetic angle of 14 degrees, as you were. I shoot a, I'm going to apologize to you. I'm doing it backwards for you because I'm still in the process of converting a magnetic azimuth to a grid azimuth. Forever immortalized on YouTube. So we have our grid azimuth, all right? Area A, and I want to navigate to area B. I put my protractor on my map after orienting my map with my compass and doing the grid to magnetic estimates and conversion so I can orient my map appropriately. And I take a straight edge and draw it on the map here, or like your 3x5 card or your straight edge ruler, and you put it from the crosshairs in the middle of your protractor out across. It gives me a grid azimuth of 93 degrees. So I'm here at A, I want to travel to B. It gives me a grid azimuth of 93 degrees. I can't like pick up my compass, hold it to my head and say, I'm going to go walking off at 93 degrees. Otherwise I'm going to be like way off to the right or to the south in this case. I have to convert my grid azimuth to my magnetic azimuth so that I walk on the correct magnetic azimuth. In this case, we've got a grid to magnetic azimuth of 14 degrees to the west. You look at your little cheat sheet, it's going to tell you, hey, we need to add that. So if I've got a grid azimuth, again, straight line from area A, from point A, going off to point B. If you were to zoom in here, we've got 90 degrees on the protractor, 91, 92, 93. I add 14 degrees, it gives me a magnetic azimuth of 107 degrees. I can then take my compass, plug it to my eyeball, turn my body appropriately until I've got 107 degrees right in front of me. I can look off through my sighting wire, look at the object or the terrain feature that I need to navigate to, and I know the direction I need to walk. Hopefully that makes sense, considering I like completely started off by like running it backwards for you guys because I wanted to confuse you, see if you're like awake, paying attention. By the way, again, movie scene behind me, anyone who like gets a brownie point, it's kind of like Disney dollars. It's bragging rights. You can't actually use it anywhere, but hey, if you see it and you notice it, LT knows what's going on here. Just enter it in the chat for your brownie point, okay? High five you out there on the objective. Back azimuths. If you've decided I'm going to walk off today towards this big peak in front of me, because that's where I saw the monster elk of my life, I'm going to shoot that azimuth of 295 degrees and walk off in that direction. I want to know ahead of time, like, hey, what's my back azimuth? If I had to turn completely around 180 degrees and walk back the direction I came, either for the sake of getting to like walking a panic azimuth, like, hey, that's where a road's at running due east-west. That's where my camp's at. That's where I drop my pack at. Or I want to familiarize myself with a big terrain feature directly to my six and be able to walk back if in that direction where I know I came from. You want to familiarize yourself like, hey, 295 degrees is the direction I'm going to be walking. 180 degrees in the other direction is 115 degrees, whatever it may be. All right. Just keep in mind, back azimuth. I shoot my azimuth for my direction to travel and towards that peak that I'm going to walk that day. I want to turn myself around, do a crazy Ivan, shoot anyone, Red October, anybody, Red October fans, shoot an azimuth 180 degrees from the direction of travel that I'm going to be going. So I have a terrain feature right there. So, hey, you run into a grizzly bear, you're going to like add the next chapter to Hugh Glass legend and drag yourself out of the woods injured. You know, it's like, hey, I was traveling towards that peak where they had the biggest elk I ever saw in my life, but my camp is in this direction towards that peak, toward that terrain feature that I can continue to keep in sight because I shot a back azimuth. I can drag myself out to self-rescue or at least get myself to an area of general safety before I hit that panic button on my GPS. Speaking of GPSs, global positioning system. We're going to talk about the global positioning system. We're going to talk about the different types of GPS receiver. We're going to run through real quick how to like the key things you need to look for in a program of GPS as well as GPS limitations. Again, the GPS system, it's a bunch of satellites cruising around up there in high Earth orbit. You've got 24 of them that are continuously operational. They've got at least 31 that the government wants to tell us about that are up there. It's continuously sending radio signals back to Earth for our little GPS transponders to pick up those radio signals, say, hey, this is signal belongs to this satellite, this signal belongs to that satellite, this signal belongs to that satellite. It will triangulate that signal and give you a readout of your location. Now, if you use in longitude and latitude because you think you're a pirate, you're going to make your life difficult for you. But if you're using MGRS or WGS84 or the North American datum that we're going to be talking about, you will be able to get rescued. But again, these things are flying around up there. They're like 18,000 miles an hour. They're transmitting radio signals. Your GPS is trying to pick up those radio signals. It needs, most of them needs at least 3. It needs to be able to pick up at least 3 to be able to give you a readout. More advanced military GPS receivers can do better. You'll cruise around, you'll see Caltrans. They'll have like 12 guys standing behind this one dude who's actually doing the work. He's got this big tripod there, and it's got like a satellite dish or a flying saucer on top of it, and they're just like standing there watching it. It's picking up all those satellites and like giving like a measurement within a hair's breadth of a location. Generally though, however, when we're talking about using an 8-digit grid coordinate that our GPS receivers are going to be giving us, that's going to put you within a 10-meter square of your location on a map, which is close enough if you have to hit the button for search and rescue for them to be able to find you. These are the different kinds of GPS receivers that you're going to come across. Again, you're going to see brand names here. Seeing them in our presentation is by no means an endorsement for Garmin or Bushnell or any of these people or any of these products. let alone, hey, you have an iPhone there. If you guys are rocking Android, be proud of yourselves, okay? Be proud of yourselves. But you're gonna have different devices here. Something to keep in mind, like I said, anytime you have one of these devices runs and it's consuming power, unless you have a means of recharging it, it eventually is gonna run dry. Now, these meet the first kind of a cool factor. Hey, they look really cool, but second kind of cool factor, they're going to drain your battery. Same thing with running your iPhone as your primary GPS receiver. You're out in adverse conditions. Your iPhone gets some water on it. Go ahead, do yourself a favor. I'm not telling you put your iPhone in the water and try and navigate with it, but get a little drop of water in your finger and then like put it on the screen. You do not send me the bill if you screw this up or do something weird to your phone. But just see how it doesn't work when your fingertips are wet. You're panicked, you're sweating, or you've had it in your pocket and you bring it out and it's all covered in slobber for being in your pocket. It's going to create problems for you. I know because I've done that dumb thing, right? But again, different types of GPS receivers. Some of these GPS receivers that are running around out there now have a satellite communicator or transponder built into them that can take a long time to transmit to the Iridium satellites that are running around there and send a message to your loved ones, or hey, in this when you break your femur because it got clipped out. But they will also provide the same feature and function as long as you didn't leave it on all day and drain the batteries and you can't call for help. What's cool about the basic GPS receivers that you can still get your hands on these days, even if like, hey, you like the old black and white screens, you can find them on eBay if that's what you want to rock. They're reliable. They've got long battery life. They got basic user interfaces. They kind of like even their digital devices. They're still kind of analog because they kind of have to hit buttons. And some of them have the optional emergency satellite SOS system on them. If you're paying for that subscription, don't be that guy that pays for it one time, lets it lapse, forgets to renew, and then goes out in the woods and like starts hitting that button when you have really bad indigestion or heart attack, and hopefully they'll find your bones one day. But again, they're basic, they're reliable, they have long battery life. Those are all key features. Be mindful. And the reason why we're talking about using these things with maps, compass, and protractors is if you're using a GPS as a navigational aid in the woods, all you want to do is turn that thing on for a few minutes that it takes to pick up the satellites to give you your grid coordinate, write that grid coordinate down, power that sucker off, and put it away in a safe place. Conserve that battery. Speaking of conserving batteries, you know what loves to kill batteries? The cold. When is hunting season like most of North America? When it starts getting cold. If you're rocking out there like in an October Montana, or Montana in October, and it's like 15 degrees, and you've got your GPS responders like, hey, I remember that guy with that really rad beard and that bald head says, hey, turn this thing off to conserve my battery, but I'm going to put it out here on my shoulder in this little cool case that I got next on my bino harness. And because, looks cool, and I'm like LARPing in the woods, you're exposing your electronic device, your navigational aid, to like 15-degree temperatures and to the ambient temperatures in the environment. It's going to kill your batteries. You go like, hey, I took that GPS recording this morning and it's fully powered up. And then I get a couple miles off in the woods. I want to take my, read my location. Next thing I freaking know, I'm at like 30% on the battery. What gives? Cold kills batteries. Put that someplace warm. Put it in your pocket up against your body so that your body heat can keep it warm. If it's super cold, tuck it where other precious things are kept and stay warm. All right. Don't be embarrassed about it. We're talking about, life or death here. Put it someplace warm. Don't tell your buddies where it's been. If they want to play with your GPS afterwards, or get a little wet wipe and wipe it down, but put it someplace warm. And at night, put that stuff in a sock, a dry sock. Stuff that sock at the bottom of your sleeping bag. Put it down there by your feet. Do a few jumping jacks, get your feet warm, but get in that sleeping bag where it's going to be warm. You're going to be toasty all night, and you're going to be keeping your electronics, so your GPS, other things that you need to save your life in case of an emergency, warm so that they're functioning. Use your head about that. These hybrid GPS transponders receivers. Again, these touch screens, they meet the first kind of cool, but as soon as you need it to like function because you're sweating like that pilot in the movie Airplane from the 70s. Anybody? Airplane? and you're getting your screen wet and you're trying to like move it and like pinch and drag, and it's gonna leave you when you need it the most. Same thing,
Mm.
you're gonna have your little Garmin thing that you see all these through hikers walking around on. They've got the cheap carabiner, and it's like, look at me, look at me. They interface with your cell phones, and if you have adverse, I'm just talking about like fog in the morning, adverse environmental situations where your screen gets wet and it just doesn't start working, you're sweating, you're panicking, you're in trouble. You know, if one thing, if you like fall and you get cliffed out and you break your femur, or you know, you can break your bloody back or break your bloody neck and still be ambulatory. I walking around stumbling through the woods until you give yourself a further spinal injury because you're walking around. But at least, hey, you know, you're functional enough to hit that SOS button on that transponder that you paid that subscription for before running out. So be mindful. These things look cool. They can get you out in a bind, but don't rely on them as your primary navigational aid. Let alone like you find yourself like, I can't find my camp. It's dark, it's wet, it's cold. I left my rain gear back there. I didn't pack my puffy because I didn't think I was going to be out this long. Reality, you're only 100 meters away from your camp, but hey, it's dark and you're never going to find it, and your iPhone's wet and you're done for. You're going to be cooked. So we're looking at the good old fashioned Garmin Fortrex 401. These things are like 20 years old. You know, guys in the army who like we wear these funny little hats and stuff like that. This is what we carried as like our backup GPS receiver on our wrist or somewhere else on our body, like our LBEs. But it doesn't matter if you've got a 20-year-old, a 30-year-old GPS, because they freaking work. They'll be a little slow, but they work. Even with your cell phones out there, you've got your navigational programs that you're going to use out in the woods. I don't care if it's OnX, I don't care if it's CalTopo, I don't care if it's, I think, Gaia GPS or any All Trails, any of these things out there. You have to give it instructions. You have to tell it, this is the datum that you're going to use. This is the programming that you're going to use. This is the information that you're going to feed back to me. If you don't, you're cooked. So if you go into the settings or setup of just about any of these GPSs, you're going to go into setup. You're going to select, at least here in North America, California, you know, greater United States or up into Canada, you're going to select the U.S. national grid system right here, North American datum, NAD 84, WGS 83. It'll tell you that this map is running on the North American data. Select U.S. national. After selecting U.S. national, it'll give you the option of selecting all these different survey options. You're going to select WGS 84. Again, World Geodetic System of 1984. That's what you're going to use. Nothing else. If your gunny tells you to select MGRS or whatever, you do what gunny tells you so it doesn't smoke you. I'm telling you, U.S. National WGS 84. But didn't you say UTM UPS earlier in the system? I don't care. This is what you need to tell your GPS to read and to tell you. After you've plugged these things in, you need to go back and confirm that you saved those settings. Don't do it when you're out in the woods and stuff isn't making any sense anymore. Before you go out in the woods, make sure that your GPS, either on your phone or on your devices that you're carrying, is reading U.S. National WGS 84 and convert to metric. Because hey, if you're using 1 in 50,000 maps that you've taken over to Kinko's, or 1 in 25,000, switch to metric. Go with metric. I realize no one who uses the metric system has put a man on the moon, but for the sake of navigation and doing this, go with the metric system. Once you plug all this stuff in, it's going to give you the grid coordinate in a manner, feature, and fashion that you're familiar with. 11 Sierra, November Tango. Look at that. 11 Sierra, grid zone designation. 11 Sierra, 100,000 meter grid square. November Tango. Even if you're only coherent enough to do that and like get on your cell phone, I've got like one bar of Verizon here and like I can hit 911. I'm like, it'll be 11 Sierra, no November Tango. At least they know where to start looking for you. If you can tell them more, tell them more. But here we have our 10-digit grid coordinate, 24522394041, fire for effect. That's telling you like you're within a meter of that designation. You're not really within a meter. It's going to be floating around. It's like 10 meters. Things to be advised, be aware of with GPSs. Again, you've got signal drift. Those satellites are cruising around. Like set your GPS on the ground. You're going to see it like it's going to be giving you all kinds of different readings. Or you put it on your cell phone and you just watch it. You'll be like walking all around. So signal drift, it's not that accurate. Reflective signals. If you're up against a cliff, that signal could be hitting that cliff and bouncing off and like completely throwing off your location. Obstructed view of the sky. Your GPS receiver has to be able to see clear sky. Has to be able to see clear sky. What? It needs to be able to see clear sky to be able to be accurate. If it's overcast and you've got like thousands of feet of clouds stuck stashed above you, you're gonna be losing accuracy. That device can fail, you know, because you left it outside in 20-degree weather, or it can't track a required number of satellites. Or hey, you decide you want to go off to like Sudan, and the U.S. government's like, no GPS for you. They can deny an area, or say that, you know, Canada has something that, you know, aggravates our commander in chief, and it's like, cut it off for Canada. They can do that. Again, limited cold weather function, because, you know, electronic devices don't like the cold, or limited battery life. Protractors, not going to take 15 minutes. We're going to go through this again. Protractors, you need to have one of these things in your map case. You can rock the military protractor. You can rock one of these more complex ones that cover all the maps. Buy both. Keep them with you. Get used to using both of them. But when it boils down to it, get one like this. Occasionally, these guys get really smart and it's like they put a little thing on their LT. If you can read this, flip it over. You need to make sure. I'm not making fun of you, LT. I'm making fun of this guy right here. But they put those little things in there, those little Easter eggs that you may notice. Here, remember that we talked in the beginning. We read our maps from the right and up, right and up. There's no other way to read a map. Just like there's no such thing as a left-handed swordsman. You read maps as right and up. So we've got our protractor, we've got our topographic map, we've got a coordinate of 11 Sierra Kilo Bravo 76587928 troops in the open, fire for effect. We put our protractor on our map. So we got 76. I need to move my little screen here. Bear with me, I apologize. 7658. We're reading right and up to the right. 76 right there. We got the big 76 right there. 5, the number 5, and 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Marines, you got to be able to count by twos, but you got to be able to do it. All right. And up, red to the right. Move the protractor to the right. 7658 and up. 7928. We got 79 right here on this grid square. So this is grid square 7679. We know it's in this square. 7922. We got the number 2 right here. 8, 2, 4, 6, 8. Boom. It's this peak. We take our mechanical pencil, we put a dot right there at this peak that's reading 6,706 feet. Boom. Put our little mechanical pencil dot right there. Remove the protractor. It's Mount Broderick. We figured this out. So if I'm on top of this hill or this peak, and my GPS is telling me I'm at 11 Sierra Kilo Bravo 76587928, and it could be nighttime, and I'm parched for thirst because I only thought I needed to carry this little smart water bottle with me. I need to find a water source. I need to walk myself out to an area like, look, there's a trail over here to our southeast. I take what my GPS is telling me that I have kept turned off, conserved battery, and kept stored in a warm, dry place. I point it towards the sky. It gives me this. I take out my map. I apply my protractor to it. I read that map to the right and up. It tells me I'm currently at this high point, Mount Broderick. I can shoot an azimuth. I can walk my happy self over here to this trail. I can hit these water features to, you know, get this sustaining life and hydration. But basic application there. So we're not going to do, hey, let's check our work with the GPS coordinator, coordinate viewer. Again, these links are live. I've tested them. The government hasn't changed too much here recently. They work. You can throw this grid coordinate into the search feature. It will boom zoom in there for you on Mount Broderick, and it'll tell you that. Hey, what we're working on next in the future, Wilderness Navigation 101 and 102. These things are going to be online. This is taking these things that we've just done here at the 50,000 foot view, that quick and dirty session, and like I will slow down when I'm talking, take questions, and explain things a little bit further in depth, so that hey, hopefully it absorbs a little bit better. I want to, time permitting, I've got little kids and professions, time permitting, get an actual basic land navigation field exercise going again. It takes like days out in the field to like lay out a land nav course, to stake those things out with the engineer's survey points, to like plot everything, program everything, create the range cards for everyone to walk. It's a lot of work, a lot of time, coming soon in the near future. And once we do the basic land nav course, and we'll work on an intermediate land navigation course where, hey, we actually go out and walk a few miles and navigating to different terrain features using our compass and azimuth. And eventually an advanced land navigation, a field exercise where you're doing a lot of terrain association, reading a map, doing a terrain association, not using a map and compass or GPS, but walking out, pacing, looking at the terrain and being able to navigate this way. Why is this so important? Why is this so cool? Hey, look, we got some cool organizations in the U.S. military, principally the U.S. Army. I don't care what those SEALs try to say, or you Marine Raiders try to say. With one really cool organization called Delta Force, and they'll take guys out of the Ranger regiments, they'll take SEALs out of the teams, they'll take PJs out of Air Force Special Warfare, they'll take Marine. They won't take Marines. They'll take guys out of the Coast Guard and out of the Space Force if they're sharp enough. But they're big make or break. See if you're, if you're even, they take other Green Berets, big make or break to whether or not you're going to go into Delta. They drop you off and they have you do a land navigation course. Unknown points, number of points, unknown distance. Don't screw it up. They need to see that you can run these basic math calculations, deal with a significant degree amount of stress, and just go. That is literally like what they do for selection before decide whether or not you're going to be on Delta Force and doing something really cool. They're going to have you run land nav. They have you run land nav to see if you can like get into OCS, graduate from OCS, graduate from your basic officer infantry course. You can be going to your command college. They're going to have you running land nav. And if you can't hack, you can't hack, and they'll get rid of you. And maybe you can find a career in the Navy and run a destroyer up on a reef or something like that. But they won't. They'll get rid of you in the Army, chapter you out. You find yourself working for the Space Force. Additional resources that you can find. I outlined all the things that we talked about here. Good old-fashioned U.S. Army Field Manual. Yes, they use that in the Marine Corps too. I'm surprised, because you have to read. U.S. graphic training aid. These live YouTube links, I have no control over YouTube. If they're active today, they may not be active tomorrow. Maybe the guy gets demonetized because he says something that gets him canceled. Basic courses here explained in YouTube covers all the same things we just talked about. You can view them and enjoy them at your own time, your own leisure. Sit in a dark room, a laptop on there, let your significant other know that you're in there, doing some survival stuff. Ask for some privacy, focus on this. It's good. Anyway, that's the end of the presentation. You can get me at hello@adp.me. Request the slide presentation material if you haven't already. If you have, I will be putting part 2 here into the Dropbox that you have a live link for. So this information will be updated for you. I'm not saying it's going to happen tonight because I got to go feed kids next and I've got other things I got to do, but it'll be in there for you to view sooner rather than later. Again, if you haven't, hit me up. You don't have to tell me anything embarrassing about yourself in order to get access to this Dropbox link. I appreciate all of you. I hope you found it informational, entertaining. You've got my email, hello@adp.me. Seriously, hit me up if you have any questions regarding this. I'm happy to respond. It may not be like tomorrow. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to get back on my personal email, but when I get caught up, I'll get caught up and I'll get back to you. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Andrew, so much.